a beautiful thing. Art comes from different people, periods and times, and even different places. One interesting place that art comes from is Rome. This is a painting done in Pompeii. It is called different names by different sources. According to the book Gardner Through the Ages, it is called Portrait of a Husband and Wife, wall painting from House 726, Pompeii, Italy. By the web source GJCL, Classical Art History, it is simply called Portrait of a Married Couple. This painting may seem like a portrait that was painted on a canvas, but according to Gardner, almost all were cut out of the walls. An interesting fact about this painting is that it was one of the first of its kind to be found, according to web source Art History Timeline. It is assumed that this painting represented the people of Pompeii by their distinct characteristics. When the artist made this painting, he or she was most likely trying to convey literacy and education in this portrait. The man holds a scroll, and the woman a stylus and a wax writing tablet, standard attributes in Roman marriage portraits. They suggest the fine education of those depicted, even if, as was sometimes true, the individuals were uneducated or even illiterate. Portraits such as these were their version of wedding pictures. Here we see, according to Gardner, the bride and groom posing in rented formal garments, never worn by them before or after. What was the artist trying to tell us through this painting? I personally feel like he was trying to represent the people in their lifestyle back then. This idea is conflicted by the fact that although the picture represents distinct characteristics of the people, the clothes along with the scroll, wax writing tablet, and stylus, those were all fake or semi-fake. We cannot be sure that these people were actually knowledgeable, although that's how it seemed through the picture.
The second artwork is called Man and Centaur, also known as Hero and Centaur or Hercules and Nessos. It is said that this piece came from Olympia. It also came from the geometric period or 750 BC / mid-8th century BC. This sculpture is actually 4.5 inches tall, and it actually is made out of bronze. The way that they made this bronze sculpture was actually using the lost wax method, which was the figure and the base molded on wax, was casted in clay, then the clay was molded and melted to the wax, and the hollow in the clay served as a mold and was filled into the molten bronze, which meant that they would make a little pocket for the bronze to sink in there, and then it would just let it harden, as we now know, and it's so much easier for us. Also, the little sculpture has two little inlays in the eye sockets of the man, and that is to make it more realistic. And it is said to believe that the little holes in the eyes actually held precious gems or stones and something, just to make it more realistic, because they were actually about the realistic and making it very natural and making themselves very natural as much as they could. The sculpture displays influence from Mesopotamia and Egypt. They followed the Hellenic era, which showed natural beauty, which was that they didn't care of how they actually look. They would actually portray their fat or how long this was or how long this was. They would actually show if they had a pimple on their face or a mole on their face. They would be very realistic, unlike Egyptian art, where it was mostly just them being perfect and them being very straight and square. In this time and age, that they actually showed the curves and the S curve that they had and humans had in those days. Another very distinctive thing is that Hero is actually taller and bigger in size than the Centaur is, and that is also because of class. We learned about it in our class that it had to do with who was more mightier, who had better money, who was on top. The art showed who owned and